Hey guys!
Hi, happy Monday. Just a heads up, you may have noticed on the last slide that we have a new devotion song.
Yes, perfect. So give it a listen. Welcome back to Devotions with Emma and Sammy. We're so excited that you're here. Today, it's a little bit different than the other stories that we've been talking about. We're going to be talking about Jesus. But we're going to be talking about Jesus before he's even come. So going from yesterday to today, yesterday we talked about Jonah and how Jonah was a prophet. After Jonah, there are several other prophets that God uses to speak to the Israelite people. Usually it's messages of, you need to be loving God and not just doing what you think that you should be doing, because that's what a lot of the religions were focused on, but they focused on the relationships. However, the one that we talked about today sounded a little bit different, so we're going to talk about what that means, what happened after it, and what it means for us. But first, we're going to go over to Emma for our theme, main idea, and verses.
Thank you, Sammy. Okay, so we have a new theme today, guys. How exciting. So our theme is God's promises, and our main idea is Jesus is coming. And our verse is from Malachi chapter 3, verse 1. Look, I am sending my messenger, and he will prepare the way before me. Then the Lord you are seeking will suddenly come to his temple. The messenger of the covenant, whom you look for so eagerly, is surely coming, says the Lord of heaven's armies. And that is our verse.
Um, so this verse, when you're just first reading it, it sounds really weird, if we're honest. Talking about messengers, armies, temples, covenants. It's kind of hard to make sense of it. But what's really, really cool is that this verse is talking about Jesus coming. So if you remember all the way back when we talked about Adam and Eve and how sin first entered the world and God made a promise that he was going to restore creation, um, Jesus is how God is going to restore creation. And this verse is kind of the first time it openly talks about the fact that Jesus is coming. Everything in the Old Testament points to the fact that Jesus is coming, but this is the first verse that says you're going to see him. He's going to be in your temple. He's going to be there, which is probably so exciting. If you were an Israelite at this time, it's like, oh, yes, he's coming. Perfect. But what's very interesting is after Malachi, after this prophet, God stops talking to Israel for 400 years, which is a lot of years. I'm sure the Israelite people thought that God abandoned them, that he wasn't listening to them, and really didn't know what was next. They were so used to God leading them and speaking to them and changing their hearts that this 400 years silence was probably quite a shock. So that takes us straight to our question for the day. Have you ever felt like Israel in that 400-year period? Have you ever felt like, man, I don't know if God is listening. I don't even know if God is there. I want you to take some time and ask yourselves those questions. Do you feel like there's ever been a time when you felt like God wasn't listening or God wasn't there? So think about that. Pause the video. All right, thanks for thinking about that question with us, and that takes us into our prayer. If there's ever been a time like you felt like God wasn't listening, or maybe you doubted that God wasn't even there, I know that I definitely have had those times. It's important to tell God about it, even if you think He's not listening. Just saying like, "Hey, like I feel like you're far away today, God. Please, like that's just how I feel." Like sometimes we don't even need to ask for anything; we just need to tell God how we feel. But it's also important to remind yourself that God is there and that he does have a plan for your life. We've talked about that so much over the last week or so, that God has a specific plan for your life. Sometimes we just have to remind ourselves and talk to God about the fact that he has a plan for our life and that we trust him. So take some time, just talk to God, even if you feel like he's not listening or if he's not there. So pause the video, talk to God for a second. All right, thanks for taking the time just to kind of rest and talk to God for a moment. Our next portion of these devotions is going to be talking about Jesus, so that's super exciting. So stay tuned for that. We're going to head over to Emma for our invitation.
Yes, so today we have a fun video to share with you guys from Jennifer and her dogs, Abby, Rose, and Sailor. As you may notice in the video, they're outside getting some fresh air and exercise. So we would like to invite you guys to do the same. The weather's supposed to be beautiful this week, so get out and enjoy it. Thank you guys. We will see you tomorrow.
Bye.
Abby is being walked by Sailor.